Hi, everyone. Hope you had a good coffee break. Thanks for having me. So I'm sitting here with Brian Gahan from Kraken, who's managing the European side of Kraken. And here we'll just be discussing the themes that we've already been building on for the rest of the conversations so far. So the regulatory environment for CASPs, for crypto asset service providers in the EU, we're on the edge of a new proposal from the Commission, which has been discussed. This is also the late stage implementation of the Markets in Crypto Assets regulation, and we're also looking at a developing environment for a tokenized economy. So we have a lot to discuss, and Brian, I want to maybe go back first and ask you about what it was like to make a decision to pick Ireland as your domicile under MiCA, to get the license there, because essentially you are going to be, rubbing shoulders with all the big tech HQs which are also there, and Coinbase is another crypto asset exchange that's there, and you made this decision in June. So what was that process like?
Yeah, so just going back a number of years, Ireland has always been kind of a home of technology, whether it's financial technology or broader forms of technology. It's a natural home for that. We've many of the global tech firms based there already, as you mentioned, such as Google, Meta, and so on and so forth, and have been there for many, many, many years. So I think there's, outside of regulation and supervision, there's fundamentally, Ireland is a good place to do business. It has a young English-speaking population, and it's well-educated workforce, and so on and so forth. And it's a business-friendly jurisdiction with favorable tax regime, and so on and so forth. So those are the kind of broader reasons. Looking back through kind of Kraken's history, and yes, obviously we've been MiCA authorized since June as a crypto asset service provider. But going back a little bit before that, Kraken has been in Europe, and Europe has been one of our key jurisdictions for many, many years. So Kraken was founded in 2011. Fundamentally, about our USP is about security and protecting clients and protecting client funds, and educating clients. But going back to 2013, Kraken was the first global crypto exchange or digital asset exchange to offer a BTC Euro trading pair and a scalable on-ramp for SEPA in Europe for clients to be able to buy Bitcoin as it was at the time, and then hundreds of digital assets now. So I think Kraken obviously has always been a huge advocate for regulation, and MiCA is kind of one of the last pieces in the jigsaw, I guess you could say. So we've had obviously our MiFID authorization, albeit in Cyprus, and going back to 2023, we've had an e-money institution in Ireland as well. So our regulatory hub, its kind of natural home is Ireland, and we have a strong relationship with the regulator there, and a forward-thinking, fair and firm regulator, and that's that really kind of contributes to it was an easy decision to make.
So you mentioned quite a few different bars that you've had to reach as an e-money institution, as under MiFID. This is more than just MiCA. So I suppose for an organization that has already kind of reached those goalposts, MiCA wasn't a big jump, but were there any changes or shifts that you need to do to really secure that MiCA license?
Yeah, no, I think in many ways, MiCA codifies practices that Kraken has kind of engaged in as our bread and butter for many, many years. So yeah, obviously there's always an operational uplift, and it requires more people on the ground to manage these and be the face of these businesses and to be accountable for them to the regulator. But as I said already, Kraken has advocated since day one for forward-looking crypto asset regulation, which MiCA is, and really it was a matter of, it provides that certainty to investors, whether they're retail or institutional, that it is a level playing field across Europe, that the same consumer protections are in place no matter what crypto asset service provider you're dealing with. So yeah, really, there's no massive changes to how Kraken does business, but what I guess it does do is provide that certainty that allows us to invest in Europe. And obviously, we're talking about the future of finance. And if you look at Kraken's kind of product velocity and the things that we've brought to market in the last year, Mika is a kind of central piece in providing us with the ability to invest in bringing best-in-class products to our clients. Like an example of that would be our embed product, whereby in partnership with a Dutch bank, Bunk, which probably everyone has heard, we're able to leverage Kraken's back-end technology to provide crypto asset services to the clients of Bunk in a very seamless way. And then we're talking a little bit beyond crypto assets or just MiCA regulation here and the future of finance. And obviously I know there's been a huge amount of talk this morning about tokenization and the Savings and Investment Union. But again, like Kraken is probably a very good example of how those different regulatory regimes can interact together and provide seamless products to clients. Like one example I know Alessandro touched on it already is our X-Stocks product, which is under the MiFID framework, but is in effect our version of tokenized equity. And even just last week, you will have seen we launched Crack Card under our Crack app, which is a separate spend, send and grow app. And within the provision of those services to all of those clients, you're seeing a kind of harmonized interaction between several different regulatory regimes, whether it's the money services out of our e-money institution, MiFID for the tokenized equities, and then obviously MiCA for sending crypto and so on and so forth. So I think Kraken is probably a very good example of utilizing the different regulatory regimes to provide certainty to consumers and the same consumer protections, but in these seamless products, delivery of products to our clients.
So these products, are they available only to Europeans because of the regulatory framework that is available here and not available to those in the US? Or is it that they're available to Europeans with that added trust?
Well, I think each product is kind of different, and obviously Kraken is a global service provider. We are in like over 190 countries globally, and without listing our exhaustive list of products, and there are kind of geo restrictions on some, but specifically your question about for most of our products, which we try and offer globally, when we do offer them in the EEA or in the European Economic Area, yes, it's exactly what you say. They're being offered under one of the various regulatory regimes, whether it's MiCA, MiFID, or e-money or PSD2. And yes, the consumer ultimately knows that they're getting the adequate consumer protections that they're used to across anything that they've ever been, any financial product that they've ever been involved in their whole life. They know that these kind of things are supervised the same way, and that the outcomes for consumers should be the same, right? And that there is that level of consumer protection there. So yeah.
So we heard from both the commissioner and commission officials earlier today. We got a bit of details and confirmation that with the new package that's being published this week, the Commission will propose more centralized supervision for a number of not just crypto asset service providers, but for a range of financial service providers, as well as kind of an upgrade for the DLT pilot. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, especially given as Peter Kirstens, the Commission advisor, who said he is looking for very specific feedback from the industry. What would your contributions be there?
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to wait till tomorrow because nobody's read it yet. But no, I know there have been there's been various things mentioned about what might be in it. But I think on the specific thing of central supervision, which you mentioned, and I think there's been previews out there that this could be a theme in the document. I think Kraken is agnostic, right? What we always would advocate is a clear rule book, simplification where possible, and also that rule book is applied and supervised the same by whoever is supervising it on all players. So we await with bated breath the documents, and I think Peter Kirsten's mentioned they're 600 pages long. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that over Christmas, and we'll I'm sure Kraken will have a kind of thoughtful response, but as I said, we'll see what it looks like. But at the moment, I would say we're kind of agnostic before reading it.
Okay, well, you'll have some Christmas reading to do. And it would be interesting also to hear from you regarding now we're seeing that national competent authorities are operating at different speeds when it comes to supervising and regulating crypto assets across the 27 member states. What kind of issues does that create in this limbo stage? And also maybe this new proposal will kind of throw a stick into this whole process, because at the end of the day, that might completely change the way CASPs are being supervised. It would also be interesting if, for example, only some systemic crypto asset service providers would fall under ESMA, for example, and smaller ones would continue under national competent authorities. So how do you see this upcoming phase and the confusion that might come with it?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to remember we're really at this, and I know we're talking about a proposal tomorrow that could propose, changes or whatever, but we really are at the start of MiCA. Kraken has been authorized since June. We're still in the middle of many transition periods. Many of the big players or providers of crypto services and future providers of crypto asset services in the EU are not yet authorized. And I can see Oliver in the front row from KuCoin, another large player that has just been authorized last week. So congratulations to them, and I'm sure they'll be operationalizing their EU business over the coming months. And I look forward to receiving those consumer protected crypto asset services in the same way that Kraken is already delivering them. So I would, and as I said, we'll see what's in the proposals tomorrow. But I think it is important to remember that we're, whatever it is now, 11 months into MiCA being enforced for CASPs, and a little bit longer for stablecoin issuers, where we've got 7 months left of some national transition periods. MiCA was kind of forward thinking. It was the first of all of the G20 nations to look to legislate or regulate for crypto, and that was game changing and kind of unthinkable many years ago when I first entered the space, having come from traditional finance, that we would have this unified rule book for all 450 million EEA and EU and EEA's the population and these people to receive these services. That was unthinkable. So I would urge any kind of future proposals to really not look to stifle innovation in the same way MiCA didn't, in that it didn't really look to regulate DeFi, and we've seen that space continue to flourish, and we can see how the regulated side can interact and be interoperable with DeFi. And also, obviously, we're aware that we've had the Genius Act in the US. There's the Clarity Bill, I'm sure, to come. The UK is going to bring forward legislation as well. So I think it's incumbent for the EU to stay ahead of the curve, to ensure that that there isn't fragmentation, and crypto assets and distributed ledger technology by its nature is borderless. So it's incumbent on regulators, on legislators, on the EU, the Commission, and so on and so forth, to ensure that and Kraken and people like Kraken as well to lead that conversation to ensure that there is interoperability between frameworks and that at the end, that there aren't outcomes that lead to consumer detriment. So that's the most important piece of this.
So let's move on also to touch again on the Savings and Investment Union. Brussels wants to create this, new kind of approach, but only a small fraction of Europeans actually save and invest, especially compared to what we see in the US and the trends there in the population. Do you see crypto and tokenized markets as a kind of extra step that supports that, especially when it comes to younger populations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first of all, I think the Savings and Investment Union is a great idea. Like if we're looking across the EU, really it's younger people that I think there is this challenge now for whether it's Gen Z or Gen Z or millennials. As it stands, the outlook for their economic well-being is not, they have more challenges in front of them across the EU than they did, say, for their parents' generation. And investments and savings, investments in kind of assets that they haven't typically been able to invest in up to that point, of course, will help them to build wealth and grow wealth and so on and so forth. And crypto asset technology or distributed ledger technology really, it can and will be at the forefront of that, because the reason, and I'm going back to the reasons why I got into crypto myself, is because fundamentally it's the power of the technology. So of course that technology can and will be applied to traditional financial instruments under the MiFID framework. That is the reason why service providers are looking to leverage the technology. And yes, the younger generations in Europe are much more familiar with the benefits of this technology. So really taking this technology and utilizing it in the traditional financial instrument space is of course only a net benefit, and will get younger people more involved in the space and investing from the smallest amounts right up to the largest amounts, which is obviously a core principle of the Savings and Investment Union.
Just a last question to wrap us up. Where will Kraken be in 5 years, and in what economy will it be operating in?
Well, we've been around for, is it 15 years? Yeah, or 14 anyway, nearly 15. And I would say that Kraken, and I hope, and I'm pretty sure of this, Kraken will continue to lead the way in crypto, distributed ledger technology, the provision of those services, operating globally, and delivering best-in-class, seamless, consumer-protected products for our clients all around the world, as we've continued to do. So that, and bringing innovative products to market. So that's what I'm fairly certain we'll be doing in 5 years.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to the rest of the discussions.
Thank you.